If you haven't been sent a pre-plumbed or integrated unit, you will find the ESBE valve within your pack. As an air source heat pump cannot produce heating and hot water at the same time, an ESBE diverter valve will be supplied. When you open up the pack, you will see that the valve comes in several parts for you to assemble. You will find the valve body, the head, carcellated spindle, dial, and screw to hold it all together. One of the differences between the ESBE and traditional 3-port diverter valves, such as a Honeywell, is that the flow cannot enter the branch. The ESBE valve can be piped up and configured in many different orientations. However, for this training, we're going to show you the very simple out-of-the-box method. For this method to work first time, do not connect the motorized head to the power source. If this does happen, or if you'd like to learn more about the ESBE valve, then head over to our HPIN YouTube channel for a more advanced explanation. Let's start with the body of the valve itself. If you look inside, you will see a brass shoe that shuts off each port. Using a brass shoe instead of the old rubber ball allows for much greater flow rates. Next up, if we look on top of the body, you will notice a different symbol on each port. A triangle, a circle, and a square. For this easy setup, we're going to use the triangle as the flow from the unit, as the triangle looks similar to the Daikin logo. On the branch, you will find a circle, which we will use for hot water, because it looks a little bit like a cylinder. And finally, a square, which denotes space heating and looks a little bit like a radiator. Next, we will find a carcellated spindle. On the spindle, you will see that we have a line that travels around the outside. The spindle itself has a long and a short end. We want to fit the long side to the valve body. As we fit the spindle to the body, we need to twist the spindle to find its correct seating point. There are a few notches where it feels like it might fit with a little tap of a hammer, but please just keep turning it until the spindle naturally sits flush with the body. Now the spindle is seated, we need to set it. So, with it connected, we can turn the shaft, which operates the brass shoe within the valve. Although the ESBE valve cannot do mid-position in operation, the head with the motor in it comes out of the box in mid-position. So now we have to match the two together. We've decided that the circle port is for our cylinder and the square is for our space heating circuit. So the spindle must be turned to match this. On the spindle, you will see a groove that runs the length of it. This groove is what we need to point to our mid position to match our motorized head. So at 45 degrees between the circle and the square ports. Once this has been achieved, we can fit the head in any orientation that suits your installation. I was always taught to fit any valves with the cable entry pointing down to prevent any unwanted water ingress. As you do so, make sure the spindle hasn't moved and that the green tab on top of the head is in the middle of the recessed section of the casing. Once installed, we can use the screw provided to marry the head and the body together. So the last piece of the puzzle is the dial, and this simply clicks into place in its factory set mid position. Make sure it goes all the way home to connect the motor to the spindle. You can then lift the dial upwards to reveal a red ring. If you can see this ring, then the motor is not connected to the valve and it can be operated manually, which is great for fault finding and commissioning. Click it back down and the motor is engaged, meaning you can no longer operate the valve by hand. We will look at where we wire this up to in the wiring section of this course, and if you'd like to learn more about the ESBE valve and what it's capable of in much more detail, then head over to our HPIN YouTube channel for an advanced guide to the ESBE valve.